love is really boundless. It's really something that um, can take place anywhere with anyone, and it just has, you see two people in love with no other lens but love.
Your gender identity, or sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. It does not restrict you from being a parent. What matters is, being a good parent, being able to nurture or support your child with unconditional love and acceptance, regardless of any societal norms or expectations.
We're all in this together, and you just have to kind of focus on your own voice, your own journey, who you are. And once you do, everything else will kind of fit into place. So it's sort of owning who you are and embracing that.
Most of all, I want that they will take hope. I want that people, especially LGBT people, think that things can go well, that things can get better.
The fact that any rights that we have today as queer and trans people, where and when we have them, are thanks to the resistance and solidarity of queer communities in the past.
Representation matters. People say that all the time, but it's so true.
These stories are not commonly told, right? These stories are not the mainstream that you really hear, which is, I mean, it helps in pushing the narrative. When you see these stories again and again in such a large scale all over the world, it tries pushing the narrative and tries letting the people know and feel seen, represented, and spoken about.
When you're watching films, you need to see people that feel like you, that love like you, in order to live like you want to live.
It's amazing to have the opportunity to share this story and history internationally. I never dreamed that the film would have such a wide reach.
Not all filmmakers can freely make films that tackle subjects like this, and censorship still widely persists in some countries. And it's such a privilege to have a program like Five Films or the BFI Flair that champions queer stories, LGBTQI plus stories, and makes them accessible.
It's such an amazing program to see that's taking action to really draw attention and really create a space.
Personally, I do believe that films, especially animation, they do possess the power to reshape or influence your perspective, because when you watch films, like you're putting your audiences in the shoes of this queer characters or this LGBTQI plus characters that you're watching. And I think it compels you to empathize.
If we have more and more films representing on the screen our community, it will be a good way to get people to know our community.
Anytime that film or television can be more inclusive and can be more diverse, that is the best way to engage with audiences that might not have any other access to these stories.
I wanted to make a film that was trans people thinking about our understanding of ourselves and our own histories. And for fellow queer and trans people, I hope that it can do what it did for me and help to kind of position transness as maybe more than just an individual internal identity, but an active orientation towards the world. The idea for this project began a few years ago when I first read Susan Stryker's book Transgender History and discovered the story of Compton's cafeteria. I was living in the Bay Area at the time, and I think like a lot of people, my understanding of queer history in the US in this time period was mostly limited to Stonewall.
I grew up questioning myself if starting my own family was even possible, given the lack of visibility of same-sex parents in Filipino media and even in society. And I really was not sure if they exist, especially in a very religious country like here in the Philippines. And so with making this film, I got to explore the lived experiences of Filipino same-sex parents.
Well, I was really interested in exploring the theme of finding your voice, just because I'm a writer as well, and there's this kind of idea that every writer needs to find their voice, and also kind of finding your voice just in everyday life, but also as somebody within the LGBTQ plus community. There were all of these kind of like instincts in me to explore finding your voice.
Making the film was was difficult because we applied for many fundings, public fundings, and we weren't lucky. We don't know the reasons why, but I think it was difficult to fund with the public money. So we had like a small budget.
I initially wanted to interview Filipino same-sex parents in developing this film, but I had the hard time finding them because they majority of them are not willing to be interviewed.
Benny Avalos, one of the performers, actually lost a friend during filming, and I'm so grateful to them for still wanting to finish the film. That even our really amazing little trans set and shoot was not untouched by the bleak realities of just being a trans person.
What we really wanted to do was have a very inclusive set. So our priority was hiring as many people from the community as we can. Sadly, that's not very. It's not something that you can easily do in India.
I want to continue making animated films with hopes of creating my first feature film. I aspire to tell bolder, more honest stories, tackling subjects that are truly important to me.
As a filmmaker, in the future, I want to be known for my works, and it's not just for clout, but for having a big contribution in the industry.
There's a feature film that I'm currently in the early financing phase for. I'm also writing another film. There's a few residencies that I've applied to. I would say that I'm a deeply political filmmaker, even though halfway might not be a testimony to how political things are, but I would say that it still does the sublime messaging of trying to normalize the conversation around a queer film, a queer relationship.
When it comes to the story, I want to cover more stories that are not being heard by the mass media, especially to the minorities. And I want to explore more on how we can give them voice.
We're doing a feature called Sundays Only, and we have paired up. The dream team are back. We've paired up again to do a feature.
We saw the first kiss in a school, in a high school, and the kids they asked for a second part. So the kids, the students that were watching the film, asked for a second part. So maybe we do the second part of the first kiss also.